At a train station in London, guard Joe is finishing his shift when he finds a letter in his locker notifying him that he did not get the promotion he had sought. Annoyed, he crumples the paper just as his supervisor arrives and asks him to cover the night shift since the regular guard is sick. Joe initially wants to decline but changes his mind upon seeing that his romantic interest, Ellen, will be working as the trolley attendant that evening. Once the train departs, Joe starts inspecting passengers' tickets. While most cooperate without issue, some passengers become frustrated and treat him poorly for doing his job. A woman drops her cane, and when Joe assists her, he is startled by a growling noise, which turns out to be her dog. Kate asserts she has misplaced her ticket and becomes distressed when Joe imposes the fine. In a corner, Billy changes into more relaxed clothing. Joe observes that the bathroom door is labeled out of order and that water is seeping from it. When Joe runs into Ellen, he tries to ask her out, but Ellen turns him down. The situation becomes more awkward with Paul, a passenger who is observing them. Over the next few hours, the train continues its journey quietly through the rain and beneath the full moon, with passengers alighting at each stop until only a few remain. When the train reaches a wooded area, a sudden screech pierces the carriages and the train stops. Joe begins to investigate and notices a shadow behind a door. As he is about to open it, he is startled by an announcement over the intercom stating that they have struck something on the tracks and advises passengers to stay calm while they resolve the problem. Joe finally opens the door to find Ellen's trolley has fallen. He attempts to lift it but fails, so Adrian steps in to assist. Joe discovers 2 sets of keys on the floor and is surprised to learn that both belong to Adrian. With many passengers in a panic, Joe tries his best to calm them down. He attempts to contact the driver, Tony, via radio but gets no response, so he uses the intercom to request patience from the passengers. Meanwhile, Tony has exited the train to investigate and discovers they have hit a deer, which is now entangled in the wheels. He tries to remove it but lacks the strength. As Tony hears a noise behind him and turns around, a mysterious creature attacks and begins devouring him. His blood splatters on a window, but the rain soon washes it away. On the train, Joe, growing increasingly impatient, uses his keys to enter the control car, only to find it empty. He looks outside but sees no sign of Tony. After instructing Ellen to hand out free snacks to calm the passengers, Joe looks outside again but still sees nothing. He calls the company's rescue team, who inform him that they are delayed due to the storm causing multiple accidents. Despite poor signal and static on the line, Joe learns they will arrive in 4 hours. Joe then informs the passengers about the lengthy wait, which causes them to panic. When he reveals that the driver is missing, their complaints intensify, leading Adrian to shout to quiet them. Adrian points out that without phone signal, they should walk to the nearest station for help. Joe tries to explain the danger and the potential loss of his job, but the passengers unite against him, forcing him to agree to guide them. After Joe unlocks the door, the group lines up and walks alongside the train, unaware of someone watching from the woods. Eventually, they hear rustling in the bushes, prompting Joe and Ellen to investigate. They are horrified to discover Tony's mutilated body on the ground. The pair rushes back to the train, instructing the passengers to reboard as howling and growling can be heard in the distance. Joe struggles to unlock the door, but once it is open, everyone hastily returns to the train in fear. An elderly couple is slower to board due to their age, and as they are finally getting in, the creature manages to bite Jenny's leg and violently shake her between the doors before the group can pull her inside and secure the car. Jenny is then seated, where Ellen treats her wound with water and bandages it as best as she can. Billy and Matthew try to use a flashlight to see outside but are unsuccessful. As Joe checks the door to ensure it is securely locked, the creature pounds on the train car and growls, prompting the group to remain as quiet as possible. Speaking of Adrian, he hears the noise and decides to leave the train to save himself, so he removes the barricade on the boarding door. However, it's locked and Joe has the key. Back to Joe, he keeps pushing the door while watching the monster approach him. When he's about to be attacked, the others finally open the door and drag Joe into the car before blocking the door again. While the group piles up as many items as possible, Adrian tries to break the window with the fire extinguisher to no avail. Unfortunately, the beast is too powerful and breaks through the barricade, causing Ellen to freeze. Thankfully, Joe acts quickly and moves her out of the way before the monster can harm her. Then the creature tries to go after Joe, and as it roars in his face, Ellen stabs it. The monster immediately turns to attack her and sends her flying, so the men seize the chance to jump on it from behind, starting to beat it and stab it with any available objects. Billy gets grabbed by the neck and pushed against the ceiling, only to be dropped when Adrian hits the creature's stab wound with the fire extinguisher. At that moment, Matthew arrives with a fire axe and starts hitting the monster repeatedly until it is finally dead. Kate has to pull Matthew back as he has a breakdown. Seconds later, the group examines the creature more closely and notices a ring on its finger. Like Jenny said, it appears very human-like, leading Matthew to conclude it's a werewolf. Adrian remembers that people who are bitten also transform, making everyone wary of Jenny. While some passengers cover the body, Ged recounts a story about a train that derailed in this area many years ago. The authorities discovered many missing bodies and others mauled, but no explanation was ever found. He concludes that the werewolf was responsible for those deaths as well. At that moment, the beast wakes up and howls, prompting Joe to start pounding its face with the fire extinguisher. In the forest, other werewolves hear the howl of their dying leader. Suddenly, Jenny's face starts changing, and she starts growling too. Adrian wants to kill her before she fully transforms, but Ged won't let him. The other passengers also restrain him, but Adrian fights against their hold, refusing to give up. He breaks free and starts choking Jenny, so Joe punches him to knock him down. The group then agrees to tie up both Adrian and Jenny using belts. Afterward, they devise a plan. Billy will try to repair the train and instructs Ellen on which buttons to press to get them out as soon as the train responds. Joe makes an announcement through the intercom, trying to keep everyone's spirits up. Matthew and Billy get off the train and quickly find the leak. While Billy gets under the train to fix it, Matthew keeps watch. Inside, Kate reveals she and Adrian had a brief affair some time ago, but Adrian doesn't remember any of his one-night stands. Jenny starts having trouble breathing, and Adrian insists they need to act before it's too late. At that moment, Matthew hears a noise in the forest and goes to investigate, leaving Billy without light. In the forest, Matthew hears Nina crying for help and follows her voice, only to find her body on top of a tree being consumed by a werewolf. Terrified, Matthew tries to escape, but the werewolves soon surround him. He attempts to defend himself with his axe to no avail, and the werewolves jump on him, tearing him apart. On the train, everyone hears Matthew's screams as he dies, followed by a loud howl. Jenny freezes, and Adrian keeps asking Kate to kill her. Billy finally fixes the train, and the lights come back on, allowing Joe and Ellen to try to figure out the controls. Soon, the werewolves approach the train, so Billy grabs the car and hides until the monsters leave. Unfortunately, they appear at the front window, startling Ellen and Joe, who finally activate the train. Billy has to hold on to the car again to avoid being left behind. Suddenly, Jenny finishes transforming, so Kate rushes to release Adrian before Jenny breaks free with her newfound strength. Adrian tries to help Ged only for Jenny to knock him down. At that moment, another werewolf appears at the door and grabs Kate, who cries for help. However, Adrian kicks her to push her and the werewolf off the train. The train speeds away, and Kate is left behind, quickly becoming werewolf prey. As Ged tries to make his wife see reason, Adrian attempts to fight Jenny again, hitting her with a wrench. Enraged, Ged punches Adrian back before he can kill her. Then Jenny lunges at her husband and bites his neck, causing his blood to pour. While Jenny tries to go after Adrian, Billy struggles to hold on and accidentally damages the repairs he made, causing the train to stop again. Joe and Ellen rush out of the control car and stab Jenny just before she can kill Adrian. Then an angry Joe tackles Adrian to beat him up, but Ellen intervenes. The werewolves use this opportunity to enter the train, so Joe and Ellen rush to lock the door. Adrian realizes he'd have a better chance of escaping if one person stays behind his bait, so he knocks down Joe. It's not enough to leave him unconscious, and Joe quickly retaliates, triggering a fight. While the men wrestle on the ground, Ellen seizes a sharp metal object and slashes Adrian until he releases Joe. As Ellen tends to her friend, Adrian blocks the exit and grabs the keys from the door before leaping out of the train. The werewolves quickly encircle the pair, but before they can strike, Billy shows up with the Molotov cocktail ready. He hurls it at one of the werewolves, setting it on fire and igniting a blaze. Then he lights a torch and intimidates the other creatures into retreating to the adjacent car while handing Joe and Ellen a crowbar. This enables them to force the door open and leap out of the train, while Billy is captured and killed. As Ellen and Joe flee through the forest, they hear the werewolves pursuing them. Realizing it's too late, Joe kisses Ellen and tells her to leave because he'll stay behind as a decoy. Tearfully, Ellen finds a route to escape while Joe starts fighting the werewolves with the metal object, managing to stab one. Despite his efforts, the werewolves overpower him, and he is bitten. Moments later, Ellen reaches the next train station with Joe's name tag in hand. Meanwhile, Adrian continues to run and finds some clothes on the ground. The werewolves suddenly surround him, and a newly transformed Joe leaps out to attack.